They're terrified that anyone will get around it. And so what they want to do is either ban the use of these apps or make it so they're not encrypted. In other words, they can be monitored. Well, now we know the answer to monitored by whom. These tech companies that will now tag things according to their source of origin so whole people can be wiped out. And you know what? I'm not the only one warning about it. Vivek Ramaswamy, the tech entrepreneur, just 35 years old, he's a multi-millionaire, has been freaking out about this for several months now. Remember him?
Look, I think that pretty soon we are heading to not just social media posts being flagged, not just entire apps being barred from the App Store. I think we're on a collision course heading to our emails being censored, to text messages being censored, using artificial intelligence. And I think that's no exaggeration, because if you think that Facebook, Google, and YouTube are doing the right things by removing social media posts and videos, then there's really no argument why that same logic shouldn't apply to hateful or untrue or racist emails, or to hateful or untrue or racist text messages, even phone conversations coming up soon. Many people speak over FaceTime audio or over WhatsApp, which is owned by Facebook. That's coming. We have the artificial intelligence algorithms in society to do it. Now it's just a matter of weaponizing that. And I think that is what's coming soon.
So as you can see, it's not just me. Now take this to its next logical conclusion. If you can't post a photo online, if you can't email, if you can't create a Word document, if you can't do all of those things, what can you not do in our modern society? You can't work, can you? I mean, maybe if you're a ditch digger, but even the most menial jobs require some ability to what? At least text, right? They want to control all of it. Can you imagine the terror of living in that world? You'd never want to speak online about anything even remotely political. Good God, what if something you said this year became verboten 2 years from now and somebody found it on your feed? Better to just post pictures of kittens and puppies and be on your way if you want to keep your job, if you want to be allowed to keep your business. Think about what living in a world like this would be like. The media could tell the most outrageous of lies, more outrageous than the ones they tell every day. And yet the minions, us, would be terrified to challenge them, lest it cost us our entire well-being, our total ability to literally feed our families. Now, I'm not saying it'll get that far, but I'm saying this is absolutely what they have in mind. And they're getting bolder every day. As I pointed out last week, members of a congressional committee that have the ability to regulate major cable providers are already demanding that Fox News, OAN, and Newsmax be not only deplatformed right off your television, so you can't watch them on cable, but also removed from the App Store. They wrote a letter demanding that to the CEOs of all the companies with the power to do it. And with Parler back up, well, this is how you get them back down again, or you make certain that there's no users of Parler, because everyone who'd be on it is now under house arrest for disinformation. This amount of power is literally limitless. Remember the part in the Bible that suggests, and conspiracy theorists like to use it all the time, that one day you'll have to have the mark of the beast in order to do commerce, participate in buying and selling? Is this all that different? There's no actual mark yet. But would it matter? They could literally lock you out of commerce, advertising, and a job with this. Why are they getting away with rolling forward with this now? Because the one man who would fight with his last breath to stop it, Donald J. Trump, is ironically censored and can't really fight beyond giving speeches at CPAC, one of the few forums he's still permitted to participate in. And the leaders who've replaced him, now the highest ranking leaders in the GOP, Roy Blunt, Mitch McConnell, Steve Scalise, and Thad Cochran, have nothing to say about this. This is why the left is so emboldened. They're now talking about taking down entire television stations, or at least making sure they never reach your home. If our Republican leaders won't fight and are completely mum, even in the face of mass censorship of the news sources and very people who make up their voters, there is a way to stop this. The states must do what world freedom fighter and free speech advocate, I can't believe I'm saying this, Vladimir Putin has already done. The Russian legislature has already passed a censorship law. If you censor a single Russian citizen or the Russian media on social media, you get fined. In other words, they can censor all they like. They'll be fined out of existence. We likely won't be able to save the TV networks this way. They'll probably eventually manage to take those down. But states can go after and can fill their coffers with money from these companies when they censor individuals. They could also pass laws barring Microsoft and all of its partners from tagging content as well, with fines per instance. That would bankrupt these companies. It doesn't have to come to fruition, but they have to stop it now. We are running out of time. They must bar it and grind this to a halt before they can get this pernicious disease of censorship fully embedded in the internet. Again, they've already announced they have the technology and they're in the coordination phase for putting it together, implementing it system-wide. Which, by the way, sounds a lot like what AOC told us was coming, now that you know all the details, doesn't it? Here's AOC.
There's absolutely a commission that's being discussed. We're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment so that you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation. It's one thing to have differing opinions, but it's another thing entirely to just say things that are false. And so that's something that we're looking into.
Is it all coming together for you now? It's cancel culture taken to its logical extreme. It's why the media, on a loop, has now begun not talking about issues, but people as bad. Specifically Trump supporters, domestic terrorists, Nazis, terrorists just like bin Laden, white supremacists, religious extremists, on and on and on and on and on in a loop. So that, as we reported last week on the podcast for the first time, in a survey of issues people think are the biggest deal in the country, the Democrats for the first time reported the existence of Trump supporters was the biggest problem. A terrifying development, but one the media has been nurturing to prepare society for what I just described. But again, it doesn't have to be. Our state legislators could stop it. They need to start now. How bad is this? Even Sajar Enjeti, the chief correspondent for The Hill, who is not a conservative, was blowing the whistle last week and issuing the warning about where we're going, starting with the banning and deplatforming of Fox News, Newsmax, and OAN publications he admits he doesn't even like very much.
The worst part about all of this is I expect censorship at the next level of the stack to become even more mainstream. This cockamamie idea to deplatform Fox News started on CNN just a few weeks ago, and now Democratic lawmakers are proposing it. The next step is going after protocols themselves, and the New York Times has already laid the groundwork, pointing to Telegram and Signal as potential hotbeds of misinformation. Why? Because encryption protocols themselves are by definition not able to be read or intercepted by the government or moderated by the New York Times yet. And in due time, this too will come under fire by lawmakers. And when it does, we will have only ourselves to blame for not resisting it. And Crystal, I know that this passed relatively without comment, but it actually is a big deal.
Yeah.
You have ranking members of the House Energy and Commerce Committee who are responsible for governing these companies and oversight of them, begging them essentially to deplatform Fox, OAN, and Newsmax. And again, think about where this leads. When the cable carriers become a unit of censorship, what's next? ISPs, internet service providers. We will soon come to a place, we are probably 5 years from this, in which Comcast and Time Warner, which control, I don't even know, Comcast, Verizon, and Time Warner, probably 90 or something % of the market, don't fact check or don't quote me on that, but they will collectively be able to decide, we are going to say Parler.com can no longer be accessed by our users because it represents misinformation. Think about what that means. ISP level bans. That should only be in place whenever an ISP is in direct violation of federal law. No company should ever be deciding that. But this is how it's working. First Parler, and now it's coming here to the media, the literal rails of media. Next will be the internet itself is up for debate. And I just think that we are going down the most dangerous road. You pointed out that signal thing to me. Yeah. It's crazy. Encryption protocols themselves are like, we can't have encryption because of misinformation. Think about how insane that is.
Thank you for listening to today's edition of the Battleground America podcast. The beauty of the podcast is that it's a podcast. So when I share it online, the tech companies don't have the ability to scan it for so-called disinformation or anything that's truthful that they don't like, which means it's like a truth missile. So send it around the internet. Share it with friends and family, like-minded people you know, while that kind of thing is still allowed so we can keep our freedom in our lives, online, and everywhere. Thanks for listening.
Battleground America with Tara Servatius. Please subscribe on radio.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to share with your friends and family. Thank you for listening.